Okay, this is the second to last video of me plugging my books. It'll be the last one for the official Roadside book series. It took me a little while to do this. I have all the copies of every one of them, but I cannot for the life of me find the last one. I just went in the truck, looked at the living room, I tore this apart. I don't know where it went, so I can't show you any of the inside of that one, but we'll get to that when we get to that. All right, the next book in our series encompasses Elliot Lake, Ontario, and that also is a lot of Huronian stuff. But the Huronian from the Sioux, around 638, that very first book I did, changes a lot in this area. Certain things happen, especially that upper cobalt group, and the lower formations of the Huronian supergroup are far better exposed over here in the Elliot Lake area. So this book was number 7, and it has not been updated. It was released, we went in 2019. This is the last place we went before COVID in Ontario. And then we weren't back in Ontario till this year, 2022. So it was a big, huge span of time there. And I wanted to get so many road books done. I would have been so far ahead on this if it wasn't for that. So, but you know, life happens, stuff happens. But anyway, this is the basic route map area right there. This does have, as you can see, remember the first book, it was more like just here, and now we've zoomed out. Here's Sudbury, here's Sault Ste. Marie, here's Wawa, and now they're properly color-coded. The first book is yellow, second book's not there, neither is the third because they're stateside. The fourth book is blue here, which is 4A. The 4B book is here, which is green. Then we get into, we'll stick with the Canadian ones because there's that other US one in there too. So volume 5 is from Thessalon to Sudbury. Volume 6 would be that Wisconsin Upper Peninsula one in the last video. Volume 7 is this one, Elliot Lake. And there's more after that. So, you know, with the same format as it has been. There are some new things in here. I think this is when I redid these diagrams. The QAP diagrams could have been the other one. This one also has a lot of geologic maps in it. There, right there. This is a very interesting area. This is like directly from the map. See, I started putting the maps down there. They're all listed at the end. There's a map reference too. This area, this is pretty much how it was mapped, because I didn't have a lot of time to study it. There were a couple things I noticed, but I guarantee you this is not right. It's so complicated right there. And, you know, as you can probably tell, we were there in November, so there was snow, a lot more snow than there was this year when I went up there. So, you know, stuff, outcrops, you get to see a lot of maps, stuff like that. I think in here is something they thought were macrofossils back in the 2.3 billion year old, was that Bar River or Lorraine formations, cobalt group, the upper formations. But, you know, probably not, but who knows? You know, it's not really, I think we pretty much settled on it. It's like rolled up stromatolite mats or something like that, although they're pretty symmetrical. But I'm not a paleontologist, so I just go with what everyone else says when it comes to that. It's not my area at all. That's why I study Precambrian rocks, because I probably couldn't tell a brachiopod from a brachiosaurus femur. Okay, well, it's not that bad, but there's a lot of structure in this area, a lot of microstructures that are visible at the outcrop scale, which is really cool and really unusual. So that's that one. Now we get into brown cover book. That is Roadside Geology in the North Shore of Lake Superior, Ontario, Canada. None of these are available in hardcover. None of them. So NA. And this one is no longer available. I pulled it for several reasons. There was a gross error in the middle of it, for one. And I swear when I published this, I wanted it published on you get 2 paper options. You get standard color, and then you get the premium. And most of it is premium. You'll see the little reflection there. Gloss, semi-glossy. You know, brings out the contrast, the color differences, stuff like that. This is not standard. It's more matte. As you can see, it's more fuzzy looking, if you will. I mean, you can still see stuff, but once you pick one, you can't change it. You're stuck. So that's one reason why I pulled it. There's a description in here of an outcrop. I completely missed the mark. I completely misinterpreted it. I'd never seen rock like this before. This one right here. And shortly after I published this, someone let me know that it looked a lot like something else in a different direction. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that's what it is. So I need to redo that. Plus, there's a couple of outcrops I really want to add. And I was hoping to get to one or two of them when I was up there a week ago, a little over a week ago. Just didn't have the time. That banded iron formation on top of the Archean just sucked me in. And I was pretty much there, except for the little Chippewa Falls thing. So yeah, that's basically why this book was pulled. There's a lot of very interesting outcrops in here. It is a really detailed book, and I'm actually very proud of it. Of course, you know, there could be so much more in here. Let's see, where is the map for this here? See, this is where the Wawa book ends, and then we come up this way. We come through this way. And I think there is another one or two more outcrops I did add. I decided to add later after this was published too. So when the second edition comes out, it'll be a lot better than this one. Although it'll have a lot of the same stuff in it. And see, this is like the Archean greenstones. That's what they look like. This pattern, this formation is very common in greenstone belts in North America, and it's one of the main reasons why we don't think plate tectonics was an operation in the Archean, or a lot of us don't. So hopefully soon, this book will be, I'm not going to get it out for Christmas, but it will be out next year for Christmas. I know it will, because we're going to probably go back up there in May anyway, so might get you one or two more outcrops. So just keep on the lookout for this. It will be brown. Cover won't change. I'll just have second edition on it somewhere. Now this one, I did two. I did the field stuff for two books. These last two in May, mostly. I think there's one outcrop that is older. I just incorporated it in there. But here we have the Espanola area. This is a gray book. And so now that I've got a color scheme inside here, you can color coordinate them. See, and here we zoom out a little bit more. So that is this little part right here. And it's strictly the Huronian. It's pretty much the Huronian supergroup. And the beauty of it is it goes from Trans-Canada down through Espanola. So it goes from north to south. And you basically are going up section through it. You see the Huronian like a cross section. It would be like if you're taking level rocks and you drilled through. Well, these rocks are vertical, so you drive across them and you get to see the stratigraphy. So it's a very good outcrop area. And, you know, there's some cool stuff too, like this. So I just thought I'd make a smaller, separate book for it. It may go to the islands someday there, and there may be a second edition of this eventually. But I don't know for sure. There's also there's some real good things in here, like, you know, boulders incorporated into other things. That is not technically a xenocrest. That's usually a word we leave for igneous rocks. This is a boulder incorporated into sediments at the contact of the Gauganda. I believe it's a Gauganda formation, and this underlying serpent quartzite, which is pre-great oxygen event. And there is some stratigraphy between those two, but it's not in this area. I think we skip over. Yeah, there's a couple of them. You know, all the groups are represented, but the serpent formation does directly underlie the Gauganda. My bad. I was wrong about that. Here, each stop is along the stratigraphic column. It's basically like this if you drive, because everything's almost vertical. It's not perfectly that way. There are anticlines, synclines, things like that. But for all intents and purposes, that's it. But anyway, the contact is exposed. You see a good chemically derived paleosol or geosol, because during this time in the Precambrian, you know, I forget the exact age, circa 2.3 billion with the B years ago. We didn't have things to make nice, pretty topsoil living on ground on the surface like we do today. So these soils are chemically or mechanically derived, and hence that's how this ended up in there. It's from older quartzites. It's a glacial erratic is what it is. And here you can see the contact between the two. So it's got some interesting stuff. It's not just typical layer cake geology turned on its side. There is stuff to see. And at the very end, I was just so happy, all these pictures we took. It was such a great time back in May. I just decided to put some personal pictures of the area, the rocks. There's me, my wife, my mother in there at the end. So this is good 10 minutes. Now, the last book. Around the Sudbury area in Ontario, Canada. I don't know what I did with it. It's purple. The color's purple. So they all have a theme. This is purple. It is of the Sudbury area. Let's say go back to the previous books. I'll give you an idea of where it is. Oh, wait. Okay. Right page. It's basically over here. And over here's the Grenville front. We get off the Superior Craton and into the Grenville. I actually locate that physically for you in that book, because that's a continental suture, a real continental suture where two continental fragments collided, not the Pinocchio orogeny type thing. So it's an actual really complex thing, but it's generally this area here. Now, a note about what I did for the Sudbury. There's a lot of stops and there's a lot of cool things in there. I tried to avoid stuff you find in other guidebooks. As a matter of fact, I list the other guidebooks. I tried to avoid them unless I thought there was something really cool there, really geologically important to mention. I didn't want it to be a rehash of a bunch of other older stuff. That's not what I wanted it to be. So it is a very unique book in that respect. So there's a couple things in there that were visited before, but even in that case, all the pictures you ever see in these books are mine. I don't lift them from somewhere else. Pictures, the diagrams, I do them all. They may be modeled after someone else's diagram, but they're mine. And the pictures are all mine. So if something is a repeat, it's because I thought it was significant at the time to look at it in a different perspective, something like that. All right, it's 12 minutes. We got one more real quick one.